to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something that is very near and dear to my heart and giving you guys a quick tour of my planners and how I like to plan. This is such an important thing to me since I am in grad school. I also teach a couple of classes on top of having a research assistantship, and I also have my student learning and classes and all of that stuff going on. So this is just how I found has worked the best for me, just to make sure I get everything done and don't procrastinate. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start with my little book first. This is my marble planner and what I just like to use as my student planner. So to kind of keep everything bookmarked, I just have a nice little paper clip in here that takes me straight to the page that I need to go to. Once you open it up, I have my weeks labeled for my classes in the top corner, and I kind of go through and put in all of my personal goals as well as my assignments that are due. And since I mostly only have my classes on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, you'll see it's really heavy over here. A lot of times when I have homework or things due in the next week that I really want to get done, I'll start putting like individual tasks over here, breaking them up into steps just so it's a little bit easier. But I have some big things due this week, so thankfully I don't have all too much to do this particular weekend. As you can see, I also have my filming on here and all that. I have some online classes, so I wrote that stuff up here when that's due. And pretty much as you go page by page, it's just more of my specific student and personal planning needs. This is my big one and probably my most loved planning baby. I've used it for a lot of different purposes over the years, and this particular year it is my teacher planner, mostly because I actually have a lot of stuff to be writing in here, as well as worrying about, paydays and all of that specific stuff that goes along with adulting, and I thought using my big calendar for that was most appropriate. As you can see in the pockets over here, I have little to-do lists that I don't really use all too much, but I just keep just in case. They did come with the planner. And I have a couple of stickers. I keep my full ones on the front just for aesthetic reasons. I also have all these tabs down here that I use to highlight like very important things throughout the weeks. And I actually have this nice little bookmark that'll take me straight to today. I like to only keep in one semester at a time, just so that I'm not stuffing this too thick, especially if I need to carry it around with me. And I also like to take the pages out once I'm done with them, so you see it goes straight from September to October. And I actually like these pages and their designs, and I'm kind of planning on using them to create like something of a scrapbook, so I do keep those. I just kind of cut the tabs off the sides. So first things first, I do have a monthly spread in every one. I use some of those stickers relatively sparsely. I like to mark when I have paydays. My stars indicate when I have assignments due for my students, which means I'll have some grading coming back, important notes, anytime I cancel class or when university is closed. I try to write that stuff in. This is me learning that I have a certain pen that does not work in here, but this is going to require quite a bit of work, so I made sure to highlight that because I really need to make sure that is planned well. And if we go to today, this is what my weekly planner looks like for my class. I teach on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so my in-class time, this will show what we're actually doing in class. If I have any other meetings, I will write that in. I'll also write in when things are due and when I want things graded. If I need to give things back in a specific timely fashion. For instance, we have a draft due here, but the final paper is due this week. Or not this week with a tabby on it. So when I have this draft due over here, I need to make sure that I get everyone's feedback back. I also note when class is canceled or when the university is closed, just to make sure everything is nicely put together. I choose to write a lot of this in pencil just because I get so worried that something's going to change or I'm going to have to adjust and I'm going to have to do a lot of crossing out, and I really don't like the way that looks. I do keep a pen in here for permanent cross-offs just because it makes me feel nice and accomplished. But I do go bit by bit. I also have individual grading goals, so I say, okay, I want to grade 10 papers here. I want Thanksgiving and Black Friday to myself to spend with my family and friends. Grade 10 papers here, grade 10 papers here, so that hopefully by the time I come back, everything will be good to go. I also really like using this graph paper to kind of do brief lesson plans or like overviews. So this is kind of what I would call maybe like my course calendar, specifically to certain assignments. This is actually from last year when I was doing my student teaching, but I still think that they are good references to use, so I like to keep them around. And in the back I have just a couple of notes as well as a ruler in case I ever need to make some nice straight lines for my graphing, as well as a quick little notebook here in case I have anything that I need to write down. I go to Michael's every year to get my refills for this. Pretty much everything that I use comes from this. I believe it is a creative year planner. I just got like a nice little charm. It's very aesthetic and it's very pretty. I would highly recommend getting something like this just because the pieces just go together so nicely and everything is so organized for you. And they have just tons of little booklets of things that you could put into the back just to keep yourself even more organized throughout the year. In fact, I wasn't even going to include this, but they do have like fun little budget books or gratitude trackers, just all kinds of sweet little things that you can actually fit into the loops within your planner. Just like that. And they come in all kinds of different sizes with all kinds of different goals and specific purposes in mind, so I would highly recommend these. I think I get so many compliments on it every time I take it out as well. I cannot highly recommend this particularly enough. Another thing that's super great about these at Michael's in particular is I find that every New Year's time, right when the New Year's comes around, Michael's will actually have 50%, 60% off planner supplies coupons just sort of to celebrate the new year. So if you get the chance to go and get something like that, I would highly recommend. The things that I've showed you so far are really great for long-term planning, but I also need to do some daily planning just to make sure that I stay on track, don't procrastinate, don't spend too much time watching Netflix, whatever it may be. So I actually every week write out this weekly to-do list. I'm gonna give myself, depending on how much time I have, certain activities that I need to finish for the day. This will include all of my grading, anything that I have to do for class, all of my personal things like filming or editing for this channel, as well as like just chores around the house. For instance, if I know that, I have time to do laundry on Wednesday, I would put laundry there. Or if I needed to, empty out all of the trash bins once a week, I might write it on Friday, but I actually just took those out a little late, so thankfully it's not on here for you to see my shame. And since this weekend bit is actually so tiny, I have a separate to-do list for what I plan out for the weekends. This little clipboard is what I use to plan out for the weekends. The reason I have something separate, again, is because of that teeny tiny little space on my to-do list. I also am in something of a long-term relationship, or long-distance relationship. Long-term. I mean, it is both. But my boyfriend lives about an hour and a half away, and I only get to see him every couple weeks. And since I am seeing him this week, I wanted to make sure that we have a lot of exciting things planned for the weekend, as well as enough relaxing time. Normally I'll actually go in and write in specifically what we're having for lunch or what we're having for dinner, just so that we have things to do and everything's all scheduled out, because there's nothing worse than just kind of sitting around and watching Netflix when I only get to see him every so often. So those are all my paper planners, but of course, because I'm on the aggressive side of planning and I really need to take everything I do to the max, this is only part of what I do to plan my daily life. This is something that I actually started doing in the last year, and that is planning my day hour by hour. And every day, either before I go to sleep or when I wake up in the morning, I come over here and plan out exactly what I need to do for my day. Sometimes when I get stuff done faster, that's really great, but this way I have it all set up so that I'm making sure I'm getting stuff done and I'm not gonna run out of time for what I need to do. Not to mention, it's really nice when I can look at this and say, oh, I have 3 hours to watch Netflix, or maybe I should move my assignments up here and get those done first so that I can then spend the rest of my evening kind of relaxing. And as you can see, I don't really have a lot planned after my filming. I'm doing around 6. I actually managed to finish a lot of my assignments earlier, and it's actually about 2:30 while I'm doing this, so I'm really ahead of schedule today. And that's just a really good feeling, is when I can swipe everything off. I didn't swipe anything off today just so that I could show you guys that I have everything in my plan. But yeah, this is something that I like to do on the daily just to keep me on track and make sure I'm not procrastinating. Now we're coming to a semi-conclusion of my over-aggressive planning self. This is kind of one of the last big things that I like to update on the regular. This just has my regular activities and regular schedule on it, just so that if I ever need to make sure I have something going on this week, or just need to quickly check and see how busy my day is before writing it out on my list, it's just nice to be able to get all this out of the way at the beginning of the week. And the other nice thing that I have about this is in the sections on the side, I actually go breakfast, lunch, and dinner and dictate exactly what I'm having. This has stopped me immensely from going out to eat or spending too much money on fast food throughout the week. It makes me really sit down and think about what I have in my fridge and how I can avoid going out to eat. So now most of the time I really only go out to eat on the weekends. It also makes me dictate when I'm having my leftovers or when I'm just taking a quick TV meal to class because I didn't know I don't have a whole bunch of time that day. But this is just a really clear way for me to see really what's coming ahead for the week and make sure that I have everything planned out as necessary. The last couple things I can't exactly show you, either because I think it's one, too messy to show you, or because I actually use my phone as my camera, so I can't really take you through everything. But a lot of the times, beyond just what I have written down, I like to have electronic copies of some of my to-do lists. Obviously that's not super feasible to have it written down everywhere, but a lot of times, say if I'm going to be out of the house for a lot of the day or I'm spending a lot of time on campus, I'll kind of list out some of the things that I can do while I'm on campus, just so that I can make sure I get them done and don't have to worry about, waiting till I get home to get it done. And it's nice to cross that off my phone as well. I also have the Color Note app, which I absolutely love. I organize it with just everything that I could possibly have. I have video ideas, songs I want to cover, my shopping list, as well as my regular daily to-do list of anything that I might need to take along with me for the ride. So I like to cross that off as well. And the other thing that I also do to kind of plan is I like to plan out my outfits. And again, I know that not everyone necessarily has the room for this or places for it, but I happened to get an apartment this year with a very nice walk-in closet, and I love just kind of laying out some different option ideas or outfit ideas, even if it's not a particular day-by-day thing, but just being able to kind of set everything out and say, okay, here's a couple of nice dressed up options, especially because I work for the university now, making sure that I have appropriate clothing for the day and not having to scramble in the morning to get ready, especially when I have to be at the door before 8. It's just a really nice and convenient way to do things. I also have the Google Calendar app, which I put in all of my major dates and events just so that I have constant reminders on my phone. But all these things really work for me. The last thing I kind of wanted to say on the topic is that I know that my style of planning is absolutely not conducive to what everybody in the world may want to do. I'm absolutely over-aggressive because frankly this is the only way that I'm gonna, one, remember to do anything, or two, really stay on track and make sure that I'm doing things the way I need to be doing them, whether that's, really sitting down and dedicating an hour to reading some articles for my class, or just making sure that I'm eating right, or making sure that I get enough sleep. And by planning out my outfits for the week, I know that I can wake up a little bit later, and if I don't get to bed because, I was having a stressful day and the sleep just isn't coming, or my mind is racing, it's just a lot easier to know that I have everything already set out for me. Again, I know this might be really aggressive and a lot of people definitely wouldn't like this style of planning, but it's truly what works for me and what works best for me. I think I've learned a lot about myself in my time since coming to college. I was not the best student in high school. I never used my planner. I never even looked at it. I didn't know how to plan appropriately. And, having the hourly list serves its purpose, but it can be so overwhelming to look at if it's filling all your planner up, or having something like, a regular task list is good, but just because if you have, 4 tasks staring you in the face and you already are starting to feel overwhelmed, sometimes it doesn't help. It doesn't let you visualize how you're going to get it all done. It just seems overwhelming. So having all these pieces of saying, okay, here's how I know I'm going to get through it because I have my hourly plan, and I only have a couple of things to do today. It eases a lot of anxiety on me personally. If there's any ideas in here that you would love love to try. I would love to see planners. I love the idea of bullet journaling, even though I don't necessarily have time to do it with all of my particular individual planners, but I love looking at them. So feel free to share those with me at any point on my Facebook page or on Twitter, or I don't know, in my DMs on Instagram, but I love looking at that kind of stuff. So feel free to share it with me if you have something to share. But I think that's all I have to say on this particular topic. Thanks so much for tuning in, and hopefully I can be seeing you in another video sometime soon. See ya.